Hey everyone, it's Alyssa the Recipe Critic, and I'm going to show you how to make the best classic meatloaf. This recipe is easy to make, but it is all about my glaze on top that makes this meatloaf stand out. The perfect meatloaf is tender and juicy, and the last thing you want is for it to be dry. To start, we're going to preheat our oven to 350 degrees. Then we want to grab 2 pounds of good lean ground beef. I like to use 85% lean ground beef. Avoid anything that is extra lean because you don't want it to boil over in your oven. This is 4 pounds of ground beef, but you can also cut the 2 pounds in half and use 1 pound of both ground beef and ground pork for an extra juicy and flavorful meatloaf. And this recipe will also work with ground turkey. Today I'm using ground beef, so I'm just gonna place this right into the bowl. Then I'm gonna dice 1 onion. We're gonna make sure to chop it really fine so that it can cook all the way through. Then we're gonna finely chop some parsley. I'm just gonna add both of these to the bowl. If you're feeling a little adventurous, you can also add some celery or even carrots to your meatloaf. Now we're gonna add in some breadcrumbs, followed by some milk. Now we're gonna add in the Worcestershire sauce, or however you say it. 2 eggs, 1 teaspoon garlic powder, and some salt and pepper. This meatloaf is mildly seasoned to let the glaze stand out, but you can always adjust it to your family's taste. Then, before we mix the meatloaf, we're gonna add some parchment paper to our pan. Let it hang over the sides, and this will easily allow it to be removed from the pan. Now for the fun part. We're gonna mix the meatloaf with our hands, being careful not to overmix. Once the meat is all combined, you're gonna wanna stop mixing. You wanna be careful not to overmix because then your meat could be tough and dense. Then we're just gonna shape it into a loaf. Then we're just gonna lift it into the pan. Do not squish into your pan, just gently shape it and place it. You want the air to circulate around the meatloaf so that it doesn't steam the meat. Now I'm gonna show you how to make a quick and easy glaze that is gonna make this the best meatloaf ever. First, we're gonna add in 1/4 cup of ketchup, balsamic vinegar, and some brown sugar. We're just gonna give that a good mix. Then we're just gonna brush half on top of our meatloaf. I like using an in-oven thermometer just so that it cooks to the perfect temperature. But if you don't have a thermometer, we're gonna cook it for about 50 minutes. 10 minutes before the timer goes off, you're gonna wanna pull out the meatloaf and brush on the remaining glaze. Now, once the meatloaf is done cooking, it is gonna smell amazing, but you are gonna wanna let it sit for at least 10 minutes before slicing. It's important to allow the meatloaf to rest because this allows the juices to reabsorb. This recipe is amazing served with my dad's mashed potatoes and a side of green beans. All of these recipes can be found on my site at therecipecritic.com.